Hello class, in this video we're going to be reviewing crimes against government and society. So we've previously learned that a crime is an offense against society. Well, it makes sense then that the crime against government is when we commit an offense against the government itself. Okay, the examples that we're going to review in this lesson are treason, perjury, obstruction of justice, contempt of court, and bribery. Treason is waging war against the United States or giving aid and comfort to enemies of the United States. Okay, this is the only crime named within the Constitution. The Constitution doesn't say anything about murder. It doesn't say anything about assault. The only crime mentioned in the entire United States Constitution is treason. Okay, and that's a little bit ironic because since the signing of that Constitution, it's only happened fewer than 40 times where somebody was actually prosecuted of treason, okay? And then there have been even fewer convictions. Remember, prosecution means that you were tried for it. Conviction means that you were actually found to be guilty. Okay, so it doesn't happen that often, but it is a serious, serious offense. The next crime against the government is perjury. Perjury is when somebody lies under oath during a court process or an administrative procedure. So if you've ever seen in the movies where somebody puts their hand on top of the Bible and they get sworn in, to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, that's when somebody is under oath. It is illegal, okay, to lie when you are under oath and you're giving your testimony to a court. Okay, that's called perjury. Okay, the lie has to involve a fact that's material to the case. Okay, so if I slip up and I leave out a small detail, but it's not really significant to the case and it was an honest mistake, that's probably not perjury. But if you're being asked to recall whether or not you saw somebody steal a car and you say no when in fact you did, that's definitely going to be perjury. Okay, that's a significant material fact to the case, and that's something that you definitely should remember seeing. Okay, so an example here: I take the witness stand and I lie about not seeing the defendant at the scene of a crime. That's material. Okay, the other example that would be immaterial: I take the witness stand and I truthfully say I saw the defendant at the scene of the crime, but accidentally say I was on my way to Wendy's rather than McDonald's when I saw the defendant. Okay, it doesn't really matter which restaurant I was headed to. The fact that I saw the defendant is the material part, and that's the part that I really need to be completely 100% factual and honest about. Our third crime is obstruction of justice. Obstruction of justice is going to happen when an individual, okay, so a person, does something that hinders. And when we say hinders, that means slows down or stops the ability of the court to move forward in a judicial proceeding. Okay, another word for judicial proceeding, court case. Okay, if somebody's doing something that's slowing down the court case or it's preventing the court case from moving along, that is obstruction of justice. Okay, so some examples of this. If somebody is threatening a witness or a jury member, that's definitely going to slow things down, and that's not going to allow the judicial proceeding or the court case to go forward as it's meant to go forward with. Okay, tampering or hiding evidence that may be used in a trial. If somebody's concealing evidence that would convict a defendant or maybe prove that a defendant is innocent, okay, that would be considered obstruction of justice. You cannot do that. That is a crime against the government. Fourth crime, contempt of court. Now this is when somebody is going to be ignoring a court order or that they show a lack of respect for the integrity of the court. This is going to happen when somebody is in the courtroom already. Okay, if they're being disrespectful to the judge or they're being loud, those are examples of contempt of court. Okay, can't do those things. You think you have free speech, but you need to tread that line carefully, especially when you're in a courtroom. Okay, when you're in a courtroom, you need to show respect. You need to follow the rules, because guess what? You might end up breaking another rule or another law and be found to be in contempt of court. Okay, I have a great quote here that I love. I'm just going to throw it out there for you to take a look at. A wise man speaks because he has something to say. A fool speaks because they have to say something. I think that's very true. Okay, definitely something to remember when you're in the courtroom. Our next crime is bribery. That's giving money or property to a public official in exchange for a favor from that official. Okay, it's against the law to pay a bribe, offer a bribe, accept a bribe, or ask for a bribe. anything that has to do with a bribe, okay, or meaning that I'm going to give you money if you give me a favor, and it's an elected official who's there not to serve one individual's interests, they're there to serve the interests of the community, then you definitely want to stay away from it. You don't want to have anything to do with bribes. Okay, an example would be a company CEO or a chief executive officer. Okay, they offer to pay a local mayor money in order to approve construction of a new factory. Maybe the entire community is against this new factory, but the company CEO pays the mayor, who has the final say, a bunch of money, and the mayor says, yep, go ahead and build that factory. Okay, the mayor isn't there to serve the interests of the CEO. He's there to serve the interests of the community members. Okay, so bribery is a crime against government. Okay, so disorderly conduct and rioting. Now these are considered crimes against society. I included them in this video because there's not a whole lot of them. And society, government is a reflection of society. So disorderly conduct, okay, that's any activity that threatens to disrupt social order, to imperil public safety, or to jeopardize the health of the public at large. Okay, now rioting is when we have an activity that requires a gathering of at least 3 individuals who threaten to harm people or damage property. So we can see disorderly conduct, you can do that on your own. There is no requirement of a group of people. Okay, it's just if somebody is doing something that disrupts social order, imperils public health, or jeopardizes the health of the public, that's going to be considered disorderly conduct. Rioting is sort of when we have those things going on, but it's a group of at least 3 individuals. Okay, it's very important to understand the difference between rioting and protesting. Protesting is when a number of people gather, not for the aim of causing disorder or causing harm or damaging property. They're there, they're gathered, and they're trying to send a message, but they're not hurting anybody, they're not destroying anything. Rioting is different. That's when people are running around looting buildings, okay, or breaking into stores and stealing things, or they're getting into fights, or they're, shouting at people. That's considered disorderly conduct and rioting. Okay, protesting is not that. Okay, it's the opposite of that. It's a gathering of people to try to further a cause, but they're doing it in a peaceful, respectful manner. Okay, now the last thing that I wanted to put in this presentation was motor vehicle violations. Some of you may have your driver's license already, or you're planning on getting your driver's license in a couple years, so it's important to understand one main fact. Okay, a driver's license is a privilege, it's not a right. You do not have to have a driver's license, okay? There's nowhere in the US Constitution, the Pennsylvania Constitution, that says all citizens have the right to a driver's license. It's a privilege, okay? That privilege can be taken away if you violate the rules associated with driving a vehicle, okay? It's also important to remember that even though you may be under the age of 18 and you're considered a juvenile, you will be treated exactly the same as anybody else when it comes to traffic violations, okay? So if you're speeding down the highway and you're under 18, you can't get pulled over and say, well, I'm a juvenile, you can't give me a ticket. It doesn't work that way. You're driving a car just like everybody else, so you're going to be treated exactly the same way, okay? Your license can also be taken away permanently, okay? There is nothing to stop, the government from taking away or revoking your right to drive for forever. If you do something really, really bad early on in your driving career, it may be a short-lived career. Okay, joyriding and drag racing are crimes where all parties involved can be tried in court. So if you're not the person who is drag racing on the street, but you're there watching and you're cheering them on, guess what? You can be held responsible just like the people behind the wheel. Okay, it's very important to take driving very, very seriously. You are operating a machine that has the potential to kill people, okay? That's the hard, cold reality of it. You need to treat that responsibility very seriously. Do not text and drive, obey the speed limits, use proper precautions, okay? What happens now can really resonate for the rest of your life, okay? So this concludes our discussion of crimes against government, and then we took a look at some crimes against society, and finally motor vehicle violations. If you have any questions about this video, send me an email and I'll get back to you as soon as possible.